on in. The water's fine. Get sucked in by the Triptide.
All right, welcome back to Triptide, everybody, episode 4.
We have our first celebrity guest today, Frank Wilson.
Frank Wilson. Say something, Frank.
Hello, everybody. My name is Frank, and I'm just here to have a good time.
Wow, that was very touching, very meaningful.
It honestly moved me. I think I'm going to quit the podcast, and I'm going to go work for a charity for the rest of my life.
I actually can't stop crying right now. Okay, I wanted to start us off. I was driving around, and it's becoming Christmas. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas, except to blind people.
People can't see.
Yeah. But how do you guys feel about those devices that shoot the lasers onto houses? What's your opinion on those things?
I actually have a lot to say here. I love these.
I have a few things to say as well.
As a young lad, I have some. My neighbor has them, but on the trees behind their house. So there's just a series of moving lights in the trees, and it is beautiful. Like, I'll just walk back there sometimes and forget it's there and turn, and I'll just be like, whoa.
Do they have that? They have that year round, though, don't they?
They do. It's not a Christmas orientation. It's
Okay.
just green lights on the trees, but I think they're beautiful, and that's the main one I know.
Yeah, I would agree with Dawson. I think, are you saying that they don't look good on houses, or
So
That's my argument.
because I don't think they look great on houses, but I think they might be better than having no Christmas lights. But at the same time, I would prefer them to be on the trees, as Dawson pointed out, because they do look good in the trees.
I think I'm a classic man in the sense of, like, I enjoy putting up Christmas lights on the house. And so I guess I'm old-fashioned, and I'm like, oh, these damn kids with their lasers. Like, I think it's a cop-out. I think it's kind of lazy. It's kind of boring.
So are you more of a color guy, or is it?
So we do white lights on our big bushes, and then we'll do some red on, like, the smaller ones, and then we do red candy cane. So it's red and white is our setup. And the lasers, they do look nice on the trees. I've seen, Dawson's trees. I think that's cool. I think that is probably something I would do. But for Christmas decorations, I'm not a fan of the lasers.
I would say the only acceptable conclusion then is that you must hang regular lights on your house, whether they be colored or not, and you must put the laser projection onto the trees.
A
If
little
you're gonna use them.
bit of best of both worlds.
I disagree. I think while you can put the lights up, I think the lasers on the trees they're optional though. They're an exclusive
Well,
pack.
if you're gonna use the laser, put them on the trees.
Exactly.
So what if you were to be a homeowner?
Yep.
What would your Christmas light setup look like?
All yellow lights, classic warm yellow. Put them on some bushes. Hopefully, have a nice hedgerow. Put them on the hedges. Maybe some candles in the window, stuff like that. Wreaths on the door.
Okay.
Yep.
Dawson?
So are we talking about my ideal house?
Sure.
Because my ideal house would be like buying a plot of land in New York City with a lawn and everything. Like, the Lego store, but like a small house there instead with a lawn.
I don't think
and then
those
just
exist.
go all out. I know they don't exist, but if you could buy the Lego store and renovate it to a suburban home, that is my ideal living conditions. And I know that it's not possible, but in an ideal world, I would definitely go big with the lights. But I'd say red and green's my classic, the Christmas colors. I don't know the orientation, but just all red and green is my hope. And if possible, get the Christmas tree in the window. We have a fat tree this year, so we can't put it out in the window. We have to put it in a different room.
Fat with a PH or?
Yeah, it's thick. I'll say that much. I think it actually is too tall, maybe, but it's a thick boy.
Thick with 2 C's.
Let's just say it would destroy the Charlie Brown tree in bed. It has no chance.
I saw a video of I do like really technical displays as well. I don't know if I could ever pull it off, but this guy had 2 trees talking to each other. Did you see this? It was a TikTok.
No, I've seen the music. The ones.
Yeah, the music ones
I
are
like those. Those are kind of cool,
pretty cool. The trees one was like they were trying to coordinate this like they were trying to coordinate a dance, like a lights dance. And one tree just was like not in time, not in tempo. And so the other tree was like yelling at him.
Did it have like audio on it?
Yeah, it was a whole skit, and they had faces, and like the mouths were
That's
talking
cool.
and
That's
everything.
cool.
I do wonder, did they buy it that way or did they self-record it?
Oh, they definitely made that
Yeah,
themselves.
you have to, right? 'Cause
Yeah,
there's no.
you can do it with an Arduino. Have you guys heard of that? It's pretty simple microcontroller.
For all
so-
you out there who know simple micro.
Yes. Yeah, I guess that is a pretty niche market.
So I was working on my Raspberry Pi last night.
So my answer to my own question would be like I would do something like Frank was saying, like I would probably go classic, but if I had the time, I would try and make it technical, but for right now I'd probably go with the classic white.
That makes sense.
So that was my opening topic. I wanted to see what you guys thought about
And
those
that is
lasers.
the first time we've said it. So, Frank, I have a
Yes.
question for you,
Yes.
especially. We wanted to talk about the morality of hunting. So,
Holy.
you're a hunter. There's people out there who are all, whoa, you shot a deer, that's murder.
Right.
And what do you think about the moral toll it is taking when you kill an animal versus it is just survival? You know, you're hunting, you're eating. It's how humans have lived for millions of years, and it's how animals live.
Well, I'll approach this topic with a story of mine. So one time I was taking this class, and I was wearing one of my duck hunting shirts. It's just a black shirt. It's got an American flag on it, and on the back there's some ducks flying, and there's some camo on it, right? So this girl comes up to me and she says, Frank, she's like, you hunt? And I was like, yeah. She's like, you're a murderer. Like, all serious, like, dead serious. Like, she was calling me a murderer.
What was her name and address?
I don't know that information. Anyways, so this girl, she was, like, seriously coming at me, like, angry, like, was saying, like, I think she actually said, like, I should call the cops on you for murdering. And like I've heard things like that before, but like having that experience of someone coming at me and saying that kind of made me think, like, on the face I was like, who is this? Like, that's so dumb. But then I thought about it and I was like, what is the morality of hunting? Well, I'll say for the first time I killed a bird, it was kind of a weirdly religious experience. When I killed it, and I saw it fall to the ground, and then I saw it floating in the water, I was thinking, like, I really just took this thing's life, like I was kind of like, this thing was just chilling, it was doing its thing, like, I had, like, it didn't come at me, like, I wasn't doing, like, there was no reason to really kill that animal. But then I thought about it, and I was like, well, wait a minute, well, I'm gonna go home, I'm gonna cook it, I'm going to use its parts to train my dog. Like, I'm going to use this animal to the best that I can, and I'm going to respect it. And it might sound silly, but when I killed it and I held it and I kind of thought about it for a second, and again, this was my first duck that I killed, and I thought about it, and I kind of thanked it for its service, if that makes sense. Sure. I was like,
Sure.
I was like, thank you for giving me this opportunity. But anyways, I took it home, ate it. It was delicious, and I saved some of those feathers and one of its feet to use for training. But like on the morality part of it, I think that in the world that we live in, it might not make a whole lot of sense to go hunting just because you can go to Walmart and buy meat. But I think that if everybody had to hunt for their meat and not just be able to walk into Walmart, there would be a whole lot less meat eaters, and the people that had meat would have no problem doing it, and there wouldn't be a problem with hunting. It's crazy to think that this person that called me out for hunting is probably the same person that eats hamburgers and eats hot dogs and things like that, but is still able to come at me for doing that. Meanwhile, they can just walk into a store and buy meat. Now, everybody does that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying that we live in a society where I think there are enough natural means to get the food that you want, but it's just easier to go out and get food from Walmart.
Well, so but you still eat meat.
Yeah,
So
of course.
I'm curious, what is your argument in like if people had to hunt for their food, there'd be less meat eaters?
So my argument is, I mean, there's no
Like you think it's that, like.
So maybe there wouldn't be less
think
meat
of it.
eaters, but there would be less animals being killed for meat eaters. Because if you figure, like, if you have a deer, right, and you go out and shoot a deer, that's enough food for that's enough food for, a 4-person family for, a year, depending on how you use it. 6 months, maybe 3 months if you eat a ton of meat. But, like, if you use natural means, if you plant a garden, if you go out, you get your stuff, and then you go out and shoot a deer, and you use that for a few months, and you go out and shoot another deer, and you use that for a few months, like, that's going to be able to support a whole family compared to the thousands of cattle, thousands of sheep, thousands of pigs that are killed for meat. So maybe there wouldn't be less meat eaters. Maybe there would, maybe there wouldn't. It all depends on how much somebody actually wants to go out and hunt or not. But the meat that would be there would result in less deaths, and they would be used to their completion. Because, like, you wouldn't throw away parts of an animal if you would have to live off of that for 3 months.
Yeah.
You'd have to use all of it.
What I find interesting about this argument is I understand where people are coming from, and I do think in a perfect moral society it would make sense to find a way to use all vegetarian foods. But I think in a realistic sense, when you look at the Native Americans, they're some of the most moral people in the world in the sense that they loved the earth, and they killed animals, and they used every part, and Western civilization came, and we kind of ruined everything. But they're these really spiritual, connected to the earth people, and sure, they did things and they had tribal fights, but the way they lived their lives was so connected, and so much of their survival was based on hunting. And while our survival is not based on hunting, I think it's still the fact that if you hunt and you appreciate the animal, there's something to that. It makes moral sense. And it's hard for me to view Native Americans as immoral for hunting, and that kind of has always cemented the idea that hunting isn't inherently wrong. There is something that's logical to it, and
right, like whatever you use it for, like if you have the need to go out and hunt, then yeah. Like, I mean, I honestly don't have the need to go out and hunt, but if I can go out and hunt and get meat, then my family doesn't have to pay, whatever they have to pay to go out and get that food.
I think there's a huge line between hunting and poaching.
Well, yeah, of
like
course.
like
poaching,
and I do think people like that girl who approached you, Frank, she like probably doesn't get that line.
No, it sounds like she doesn't have a grasp on reality, actually. But I mean, maybe I don't want to go that far, but I don't know. Like, there's a whole bunch of questions about it, but at the end of the day, like, there are thousands of animals. I mean, probably millions of animals that are being killed for consumption.
Every second.
Yeah. During this conversation, 46 million animals have been slaughtered.
let's get it up to 56. But the other argument is if you look at deer, mathematically, the less deer you hunt, the more deer starve.
Well, so not only do they starve, they get hit by cars. Like, there's so many, like, so specifically in the area that we live, we actually have this problem now where there are too many deer. They're actually ruining ecosystems. They're dying, and they're, like, just basically all over the place. They're hitting cars, they're dying, they're starving to death, and they're ruining ecosystems. So where we live, they actually made the laws easier for people to go out and kill deer for that reason, because you don't want, I mean, first off, you don't want animals starving to death. And then when you go out and hunt, there's no hunter that's going to want to take, a bad shot. Like, I mean, maybe there are, like, maybe here and there, like, there are some hunters that would want to, like, blast the deer, but, like, at the end of the day, like, you want to be able to use the deer, and at the same time, like, in my experience, I haven't met anybody that hunts deer that wants to do it to hurt the animal. They just want to kill it right away, and it makes it easier for them. It makes it easier for both people if they can kill it in one shot. Yeah. So, like, starving to death versus getting shot by a bullet and then being eaten and used. I think there's a difference there.
It is kind of similar to fishing. I find it interesting that so many people have a problem with hunting, but then, like, no one talks about fishing. Right. But like you were saying, like, just the basic catfish can be devastating to a pond.
Right.
And so, like, you know, they'll encourage you to fish for catfish to try and get these things out of the water.
I think the argument is how dumb fish are. Because fish have these, like, tiny brains. It's really just blub or blub the other way. Like, those are their two key functions.
Deer are doing the same
Deer,
thing.
and
Well,
here's
you
the
could
thing,
think
deer
that-
have cuter faces, though. Like, you can be like, aw, with a fish, you're like, that's disgusting, please kill it. And I think it's the sympathetic aspect, and while it doesn't really change the morality of the action at all, I think that's why it's perceived that way.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm not a big fisherman, so.
It's interesting. I watched My Octopus Teacher on Netflix. I don't know if you guys saw this.
I have not.
It's about an hour long, and it's about this dude from South Africa, and he was a like nature documentarist. I don't know how to say that word.
Documentarian.
A filmographer.
I get what you're saying.
And so, but he was like going through this midlife crisis, and he was like, I'm gonna move back to my childhood home on like the very tip of South Africa. I'm never gonna touch a camera again. And so, you know, the tip of South Africa, it's right next to Antarctica.
it's
It's
pretty
very
cold down
cold.
there,
Yeah.
yeah.
So this man free dives in just like underwear on the tip of South Africa. And while he was down in this, you know, in this environment, he meets this octopus. And at first you're thinking like, oh, is this about to be really sexual? But it's
What
not.
country developed this show?
The octopus gets used to him being in its environment, and they do form some sort of friendship, but he keeps his distance in a lot of it. And so like there's this one part where there's a shark attack on the octopus, and he like doesn't intervene, you know, like he lets nature take its course, which I thought was interesting. But I didn't know that much about octopi before watching this, but it was super interesting to see like how conscious these animals actually are.
So-
And it was a basic.
I think there's a difference, though.
It was a basic brand of octopus.
there's-
It wasn't your Gucci octopus. Like, it was just a Joe Schmo of octopi, but it was still that smart. And it, like, I just thought it was a really interesting.
Octopus are also one of like the
documentary.
smartest sea
Yeah, I was
animals,
gonna-
though.
Yeah.
And like
Well, dolphins.
that's what I was about to tell you.
Yeah.
Have you heard about the LSD dolphin
Yeah.
experiment?
Hell yeah.
So, Frank, have you heard about this?
No.
Oh, cool. Well, so basically, there's this science lab, and they get a grant to try to communicate with dolphins.
From
and
NASA.
yeah,
Carl
and
Sagan is
Carl
involved in
Sagan's
this story.
involved. He's very adamant that we should be talking to dolphins and figuring out what they're thinking. So there's this scientist who's on a lot of LSD, and Sean, you can correct me if I get any parts of this wrong. But he's leading the whole operation, and there's this one dolphin, and they're trying to study it. I believe they're feeding it LSD and trying to communicate with it. And the problem is it gets horny, and they're like, well, how do we talk to it if we have to keep lifting this whole dolphin into a different tank just so
Yeah.
it can mate to lift it back and communicate? So the lead doctor that was hanging out with this dolphin just started jerking it off, basically. And having like a sexual relationship with this dolphin that was on psychedelics.
Yeah.
And eventually NASA finds out, and they're like, what on earth are you doing? They're like, we wanted to communicate with dolphins, not give them LSD and please them sexually. And Carl Sagan's so mad, and NASA's like,
Well-
Carl, we're disappointed in you, and the whole thing gets shut down. But it does show
So wait,
a
who was
relationship.
jerking- Was Carl Sagan jerking?
No,
this
no,
dolphin?
No,
no.
Carl Sagan funded the
Yeah.
jerking off
Ah.
of dolphins. He did not do it personally.
Well, he was upset because they were trying to teach the dolphins English instead of us learning the dolphin frequencies. They were trying to teach the dolphins English.
But that doesn't.
Yeah, they were on that much LSD.
Carl was like, what if we find out what they're saying? And the LSD doctors were like, you guys got to learn English.
Wait. This whole thing turned around. So are the dolphins or are the doctors on LSD?
Both.
Okay.
You see how this went wrong.
All right, so this makes sense.
They were injecting LSD into the dolphins
Okay.
because apparently they they were both on LSD, and one of the lead doctor or the lead researcher wrote in his journal like we had a spiritual connection through
Meanwhile, they were taking LSD and jerking dolphins. That was their spiritual connection.
Yeah.
And it really makes you wonder
And
what experiments the government has funded over the years that we don't know about.
There's
There's so many.
There's a drunk history on YouTube. Highly recommend. It's narrated by Duncan Trussell.
Classic guy.
Top tier drunk history for sure.
About the dolphins or about like CIA drugs?
About the dolphins.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not
and-
that cool.
He doesn't really work for the CIA, but he knows about dolphins, so we'll give him that. So I did want to ask you guys, though, living
Yes.
forever. I'm glad you already have answered,
No.
Sean. Would you, Sean, and would you, Frank, want to live forever? And that implies that you can't die in any circumstances. It's not invulnerability, it's a literal immortality. So it's all or nothing. You can't die, or you die in your normal whatever age, probably pre-110 years old, which is if you're lucky.
So there's one question then. Does it exist outside of entropy?
Yes, that's the thing.
Okay.
If entropy occurs and there's nothing left, you are left.
Right. So I would take my regular life then.
I think I would also take regular life.
Yeah.
But if we're all thinking regular life, I'll take immortality so we have a conversation.
That's the thing. I have considered this. I would love to live forever, but only if someone else was there.
But there's like no point. Even if you were to live forever, can you even can you remember 5 years ago? I
No.
guess you can remember some things, but
Well, your mind would still utterly deteriorate.
Well, we're
Well,
talking
maybe-
about a preservation of body and mind.
Oh, so I would be 21 for.
Yes, but your
Ever?
mind would age but stay healthy. So you would retain
Oh,
knowledge. It would be the
jeez.
ideal living conditions, but you can never die. That's the fault.
I don't know. I
do you have any-
think we're all saying. I think I would argue for immortality if we had interplanetary travel. I think right now there's no point in living forever.
you could
But
just,
if you could travel across the universe forever, you had that ability, then yeah, I would definitely
but
take
you'd just be
immortality.
chilling,
Here's
just
the-
flying.
Here's
for
the
no
issue.
reason.
Yeah, it is. You would have that interplanetary travel ideally. It's how much faith you have in humanity because you're living forever.
Right now, if you had immortality, does that mean you also can't be killed?
Yeah,
you
so you-
can't be killed by any means.
I guess you would feel pain, but for our conversation, if you went out into space, you wouldn't feel the crushing blow of lack of oxygen or anything. You basically
Well, that
have
wasn't my point.
have a
but-
bubble around you that keeps you in an ideal mental and physical state, but it's the same one forever.
Yeah, I would still want to travel the cosmos.
It'd be cool.
I
but
agree. My problem is, again, with entropy. I would be scared that eventually I'm sitting there and
There's
I'm
gonna be
bored,
nothing.
and my active mind becomes so bored I go insane, and I'm living eternally insane alone.
Yeah,
The question is, though,
you could do that right now.
But if you were to go, if you think about it, if you were, I'm sure there's experiments out there that have already tested it, like you were probably referring to. But once you get to a point of insanity, reality probably doesn't even mean anything anymore. So you could be going totally psychotic in the middle of space, and you could be thinking, your mind could be going around, having hallucinations or whatever, but you wouldn't have any problem with that because you wouldn't even know what reality is anymore. So you'd be living your own reality through your imagination.
an
So-
idea I
which you
have
can
for
also
sure.
do right now.
Right. Bring it back to
Meditate
What
on
are we
it.
waiting for,
bring
guys?
it back to the LSD dolphins, right?
That dolphin was floating through space.
We can go
but
jerk off dolphins in space.
Think about how great that dolphin's life was compared to most dolphins.
No, it has a really sad ending.
Oh, I think does it die?
It gets put in, so it had this really nice pool at this research center, and then after the research gets canceled, it gets put in an above ground pool you'd have in your backyard, and it gets so depressed that because it's not getting jerked off by monkeys anymore, that it drowns itself.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
It had this one friend who's legally not allowed to see it
Yeah.
anymore.
He was not a space dolphin.
Killed himself. Too.
Killed himself.
He was
That's
living the life for a
drowned
while.
himself.
Think about that though.
That
Killing
level
itself.
of consciousness.
It knows that it's so sad that it doesn't want to live.
crazy.
Does it know that, or is it so depressed its body just stops functioning?
I guess
No,
you have
it
to-
must.
I mean, like,
I feel like it must.
I mean, I feel like
sadness.
you have a survival instinct that you have to overcome to do
Yeah.
that. So, like, an animal doing that.
And the question is, did we overcome that instinct for it by giving it LSD and having a female monkey?
Totally possible.
Do you mean like it screwed over its brain?
Well, yeah, it adapted
it-
its consciousness enough
Yeah.
to where instead of living for instinct, it was like, maybe there's something to this, and I'm just having a good time.
Maybe
And
they
then we
were
took
right
that away.
in the sense that the LSD actually elevated their
Maybe.
level of thinking.
But what I was curious about is, obviously, if you live forever, the issue you're facing is entropy and insanity. But I consider this idea, I would need someone to go with me because that's something I'm too scared of to face. But if somebody went with you and you escaped your universe past entropy and entered another one,
Mhm.
I think it is very possible that those billions and billions and billions and billions of years or whatever would be awful for a large portion of them because there would be nothing and you would just be so upsetly bored and you would need somebody at least to keep your brain satisfied enough that you are happy that you didn't die. And at points you would just wish you were dead. But if you were to able to enter another universe and interact with another species and possibly learn their language,
Mhm.
I think that would be fascinating.
Yeah.
And I don't know if humanity's capable of doing that right now. And obviously it ties
Definitely
into your
not right now.
religious or your religious beliefs about if there are other species. But I do like the concept that you could just float around the empty void until you discovered something.
Well, hopefully, I mean, hopefully that's the way the universe works. You know,
And that's the question.
It it ends and then restarts. You know, hopefully that's if you lived in that reality, then that wouldn't be bad. But
Mm.
It's also that universe. Think about how long humans have been alive. Like a sentient being hasn't been on this planet long. You would have to live through billions of times that long of nothing just to interact with that intellect.
right.
And it would feel at that point like a couple weeks because of how long you've been alive.
I mean, basically, think
That's
about it like this:
crazy.
it would be infinitely lonely, and then finite amounts of time with people. I mean, that's what your existence would be like.
And I think the ultimate answer can't be yes unless you can take people with you. And
Right.
you would just have to find some really close
Yeah, and
people.
hopefully you don't get tired of those people.
What about a dog?
Like,
No.
No.
I think it would be better with a
You
dog.
need a person.
But it would still just be depressing because you would be like,
it's not like you
well-
could play with your dog in space, really. Besides, like wrestle around and.
I don't
yeah,
know.
how would you
could
get the dog
invent-
to float in the same direction as you? Wouldn't it just like kind of go its own way?
I don't
and
know, what if you had a
eventually get lost?
space net?
A leash just walking it through space.
Yeah, but like, wouldn't that disintegrate? Like, I mean.
Well, the leash is now
Yeah,
immortal.
the
Okay,
leash is
so- Alright, so yeah,
Got it.
You're
Basic immortality laws.
So you're immortal. Your leash is immoral.
Now that is a
Depends on
good
the
time.
Whoa there, leash! Don't go too close to the Dolphins.
There are immoral leashes out there. What do you guys think of these monoliths?
Yeah, I mean that one. So it didn't just get exposed that it was just like an art project, which is what I thought it was.
Oh, I
already.
haven't seen this.
Yeah, yeah,
I saw
so-
that some people had carried it away in Utah, but another one came
Popped
up
up
in.
yeah.
There's one in Romania and one in California.
It's just an art project, dude.
But the Romania one looks shitty. Like,
Maybe a
sorry,
copycat.
aliens, if you made the Romania one, but like, come on, learn
just
some
be a
learn some
copycat.
welding. Like,
Here's my problem. Like, there was the whole thing like, oh, the monolith is gone.
mhm.
I don't understand how that was a news story. The military was there around it. Obviously, doesn't that just mean they took it? Like,
no,
No, like
they didn't. They were gonna see what it was about, and then it disappeared under their nose.
But what if they just said that because that's how the military works? Every time there's any like
well, the
alien
Utah one,
information.
people came out and said we stole the Utah one.
How?
They just walked up and took it.
Isn't it heavy? Is that metal?
Yeah, I think they took it in pieces.
Yeah, apparently.
There's a video. They
Oh,
recorded
broke it
they
apart?
recorded the whole thing.
That's crazy. I thought it was like a one
But I had not
solid
heard
metal
about the
beam.
art project thing.
I mean, I'm
Well,
just
it's a
saying.
theory.
I'm just saying, like, just looking at it face value, that it just looks like an art project. Like, it just looks like somebody. I mean, there's already. I forget the word for it. It was in one of my art history classes.
Stupidity.
Yeah, I mean, of course. But anyways, so I mean, these people like, and I mean, they are beautiful. Like, just pictures of landscapes, either altered or not by, it's part photography, part artist by, doing man-made things into it. So like, I don't know. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, just face value, looking at it, it just immediately pops out as just some sort of art concept that someone just said, let's go put a mirror out in the middle of the desert.
I think it's pretty nifty.
I think it's cool, but
I think it's definitely interesting, but I sadly have no belief that it's tied to aliens.
No,
I think it's
yeah.
just so human.
I think-
yeah.
But what if it was like how
If it was-
funny?
so here's-
How funny would it be if like aliens, their way of communicating with us or like introducing themselves is like, all right, send the monolith in. They'll know what it means.
So like that's what I'm saying. Like I would hope that if there were aliens, that if they were we're talking extraterrestrial here. If these aliens were to come in, I hope they have some sort. I mean, obviously, like I would like to think about it like if they have a similar intelligence to humans, they just have access to more technology. Like think about it like that. So, like as humans, do you
that
think
makes the monolith even funnier.
Yeah. But like what I'm saying, it's hilarious. But like as aliens, like even as humans, like if we found a new species and we were like, okay, well these people seem like they're pretty smart, like they could probably understand something. Let's send a monolith down there. Like that doesn't make any sense.
Here's the concept too. We have math as the one thing we believe they understand, because we're like, well, if we actually communicate them, it's through math, because they should be able to understand it. And what's crazy is
Or
it's not
LSD.
even the same math. LSD dolphins. If we sent a dolphin on LSD over to their planet, they would know.
Hitchhiker's Guide.
But I think it's interesting too, because they probably don't count in base 10. That's monkey language. And I wonder, like, if there's a race out there in space that counts in binary, and just how confusing their math must be to us, and, like, how different it is.
Well,
I mean,
we
you
can
convert it.
Yeah, we
can
do
convert
binary.
it, but just looking at it, like going on a trip to New York City, and you're like, all right, this is going to be a 00011000111 floor flops. It's like, geez, man. I don't know if I have that many.
What would be harder is our concept of time. I was learning about time today, and the reason that 60 is like the base unit for time is because like thousands of years ago when I want to say it was like the Middle East when they were kind of figuring out math. But I'm not 100% on that. But whoever was figuring out time, 60 was the number that was easily divisible by whole numbers. So, you have 15, you have 4, 3, 2, like 12. Like, you have all these factors. And they didn't have fractions. So, like, 60 was this whole number that could be broken down by other whole numbers. And that's why 60 became, like, the measurement for time.
Well, how would you have time and not have fractions? Like, if
Like,
you look at a
they,
clock.
I mean, they were technically doing like 60 over 2 gives
Right.
them 30, but like you couldn't do like 13 because
Right.
they didn't have 7.5. Like they didn't have that concept.
Okay, so you mean like decimals and fractions? Like
They
They
didn't-
only counted in whole numbers.
whole numbers.
They were like, we have part of this number, but we don't know what it is.
Yeah, so that's why
Well,
it's
isn't-
60.
Isn't a second like? Doesn't that have like some sort of like concrete?
Yeah, I think now with SI units, they have like officially determined what a meter is. They've officially determined like, all that, what a kilogram
isn't
is.
a second like? I could be completely wrong here, but I think I saw something one time that said like a second was a specific amount of time that like wasn't determined by humans. It was something that was observed, and it just happened to be exactly
Yeah,
1 second.
most SI is based off nature.
Right. So there's something out there then that there's a basis for 1 second. So
Sure,
that at
but
least
why
gives-
we don't have to count to 60 of them.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So that's why 60
How
is
much
so
would it
important.
suck if you made it to like, and there's the idea of parallel universes, right? And
Mm-hmm.
there'd be a wormhole that could take you there. And there's
Glory
so
hole.
many. Well, that is a different universe you're going to,
That-
but
It's a different universe.
we're going to talk about this later. We need to get to a teacher, but how bad would it suck if you found a wormhole and you made it to a parallel universe, and if there are an infinite amount, it was one just like ours, but the days were like 12 minutes long. Like, just every time you woke up, you were like, I gotta do something now. And then
So,
it got dark.
are you suggesting that not only is the day 12 minutes long, but the night is also 12 minutes long, and you have to go to sleep?
Debatable.
You have
For
to go to
12
sleep.
minutes.
You have to go to sleep.
And you
for
have to
12
wake up 12.
You're a minute late for work. The whole day's ruined.
That would be epic. You go to school for 30 seconds.
Well, I mean, that's how they. I mean, isn't that how they live on the ISS? Like, how many sunsets and sunrises do they have a day? Like a ton, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Their circadian rhythm must be so messed up.
I don't think anybody has one.
I can't even.
For all
I
of
know.
those who don't know what circadian rhythm out there, it's your
Or-
ability to do
yeah.
jazz based on the rotation of the sun and the moon.
What?
Thank you. Thank you. That was a classic, I can tell.
No, I mean, especially during like COVID and all this stuff. I mean, like, how many people actually go to sleep and wake up at the same time regularly?
I think the majority of mankind.
I don't.
I don't think so. I mean, all right,
dark
so
versus light, maybe.
Okay, so maybe in people that like maybe in places that don't rely on technology or don't live their daily lives off of computer screens and phones and things like that. But I mean, like, in the United States for COVID, how many people do you think actually like have a rhythm that they
I truly believe the absolute majority.
I disagree.
in the world or in the United States?
Both.
I don't know.
Bro, I think of how many people are just doing office jobs.
Yeah, but like they're doing
Whether
office
their
jobs from
whether
home.
their schedule changed, like maybe they're instead of
Okay,
waking
so
up
maybe-
at
okay.
6 to commute,
Well, that's the
they're,
thing.
but they're
The
probably
schedule's-
doing
the
9
schedule's
to
flexible. That
6.
means it's not rigid.
I guess I know what you're saying. But like, doesn't the original like the way our bodies are set up? It's supposed to be by light and dark, right?
Yes.
That doesn't happen.
Sure, I would agree with
Okay.
that. It's dark right now, and I'm still vibing.
And what's
Yeah.
crazy is we figured out a way that I can go sleep in my bedroom at full brightness, and that I can be up all night with stuff to do in the middle of pitch black.
Yeah.
Like, we figured out a way to pretty much take away the sun and the moon
Right.
unless you're outside. Like,
You
that's the
can
only
s-
time it matters.
Can you
solid.
sleep while it's bright?
I can make my room dark
Depends on
enough
how
to
tired
sleep, you
I
know? If the
Mm.
shades are down and my blanket's, you know,
I mean,
up on the right
I've definitely
side.
taken naps. I mean, like, think about just taking a nap on the beach. You know?
Mm-hmm.
That's fair. But the beach is a little different. Because it's like,
It's
it's,
still
so
bright.
relaxing, though.
Still
Yeah.
sun.
As an Irishman, the
So
sun is my
there-
mortal enemy.
I'm pretty sure, and again, I'm just going down another rabbit hole here because I have incomplete information. But I'm pretty
Welcome
sure,
to Triptide.
So I'm pretty sure there was, a substantial amount of money that was put towards a study to figure out how to help U.S. soldiers go to sleep in any kind of situation.
Mhm.
Because, I mean, think about it. Like, if you're nervous about something, like, it's so hard to go to sleep, and then
Yeah.
you wake up and you're tired and all that stuff. So I'm pretty sure there is a way that you could trick your mind into falling asleep in almost any situation. You just have to,
NyQuil.
like, self-relax and, NyQuil, Benadryl, muscle relaxers.
Have you done any of these things?
Muscle relaxers?
No, like just tricks to help you fall asleep.
I mean, I've tried them. It's basically like
What'd you try?
So there's this. So apparently you're supposed to lay like in whatever position it is. Like hopefully it's comfortable, but if it's not, it doesn't really matter as long as you're in the same position. So you have to stay in the same position and close your eyes, and you have to stay like that for at least 15 minutes, and your body should naturally go to sleep. But if that doesn't work, during those 15 minutes, you should be trying to empty all thoughts out of your head. So that's like one of the things that they gave was like imagine yourself on a canoe like in the middle of a lake, and it's like black water and like black mountains and like a black sky, and you're just sitting there
Whoa.
in all this blackness. So I've tried that one before.
Mhm.
So I started off I think this was on my car ride to
What
New
color was your
Hampshire.
canoe?
My canoe was brown. It was a nice oak,
Solid oak.
stained, and it was a nice wooden
Nice.
canoe. So I was in my canoe, right, and I was sitting up, so it helped because of my canoe. I was sitting up, but also in real life I was sitting up. and sat there, and you can't scratch yourself. You can't do any of that stuff that you feel like when you're going to sleep, because that means that your body's going to sleep and your body's trying to keep you awake. So you can't scratch yourself, can't move, can't do any of that. You sit in the same position, keep your eyes closed, think about this canoe, and just try to bring yourself to the best relaxation you can and block out everything else. And
Did it work?
It worked for me,
Yeah.
but I was also tired. So it's just that there was a lot of distraction going on, because, we're in a car, playing music, all that stuff.
Yeah.
I wonder, obviously we don't really know why dreams. That is a pretty big scientific question that we don't understand. There's a lot of theories and hypotheses. And I do wonder, with all the drugs out there that are either legal or illegal, there's different reasons that it's like, oh, this is addictive, this is too unstudied, you can't use it. I question what if we were able to make a drug that allowed you to experience dreams, but while you were awake?
Doesn't that basically already exist, though?
How so?
Like,
I would think
dreams,
so.
so first off, you can remember your dreams, right? But, like, you can't remember your dreams in their entirety. So, like, who's not to say that tripping on LSD or taking shrooms isn't what a dream would be like?
That's fair. I feel like that's almost more of altering your waking state. Whereas I consider dreams, for me often, there's a storyline, and it doesn't make sense always. Sometimes things do look weird. But in general, it's like I'm playing myself some sort of movie.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it either ends because I wake up, or it ends and goes into this abyss that I'll never know happened.
Like, there's no narrative in a LSD trip.
Exactly. It's just you're doing something,
Right.
and it's different. I wonder if there's a way we could facilitate. And
I'm
think about
sure.
how many movies and books would be written if we could just trigger dreams while we're awake, and you could write it down what's happening while it's happening.
I'm sure there's some sort of hypnotic state you could put yourself in.
Well, next week
Potentially.
we're gonna hire a hypnotist.
Are you third person in your dreams a lot?
Nah, first person.
I think I've had like one third-person dream.
Really?
First person in color.
I'm always third person.
What's weird is the one time I was third person, it was black and white.
It's like a movie.
Wait, that's so
So
interesting.
you're always third
I'm
person?
always
What
watching.
does the back of your body look like?
Oh, not like. Okay, maybe.
Are you
I'm,
in shape?
I'm more like a camera. Maybe I should rephrase it. Like, I don't have a body, but I'm in the space where things are happening.
So not third
So I'm like-
person, but
but-
aerial view almost.
Yeah, like
Well,
I'm
can you see
watching.
yourself?
No,
Oh,
I'm
so
just
that's
watching what's happening. But I
But
don't.
That's first.
I agree with Jake. That's
It's
more
first
first
person.
person because third person is implying seeing yourself.
Okay,
from
I
a
guess my
camera
question is: Are
perspective.
you always involved in the action? Maybe that's a better way
No.
to phrase it.
Not always.
Yeah.
I'd say that.
I'm like no, I'm always an observer.
I'd say I'm part of it a lot of the time, but I just don't have to be part of it to continue the dream.
A lot of my dreams are. I don't usually dream a whole lot. Like, the only times I really dream is when I'm really, like, stressed out, like something's coming up, or like, like new school started or whatever's going on. So a lot of my dreams, I have this recurring dream of drowning, or
Yeah.
big waves.
I feel like
Stuff
those
to
are
do with
common.
water. Yeah, definitely super common. But yeah, in all those dreams, like in all the ones where my life is basically at risk during my dreams, it's all first person. The only time I've had third person dreams is like in the way that you're saying, if you're looking at something going on, it's more like I'm on one side of the street and there's something going on the other side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm 99% an observer. Because I don't lucid dream
No.
often.
I don't think I've ever lucid dreamed.
Ever?
I can't remember a time I did.
Oh, I remember my lucid. I feel like my more vivid dreams are the ones where I'm lucid. Do you?
Well,
lucid
are you
dream?
truly lucid though? Like, how can you tell that you're making decisions?
I am able to remember specific points in the dream where I realize that it's a dream, and then I can start making decisions.
Okay.
So I think I have a similar situation, but I wouldn't say I ever lucid dream. Because I don't think I'm ever like, well, here's something I want to do, and I do it. And it's like, I know I'm dreaming, so let me try this. I think
That's lucid dreaming.
I know, I don't do that, though.
Oh,
I think at anything I wake up, and I'm kind of like, well, this is a dream, and I go back to bed, and I'm kind of following the story anyways. But at some point, I could be like, well, I got to wake up and get my day started.
All right,
But I'm
well-
still
Whoa.
not controlling the dream and saying, well, let's try this while I'm dreaming. It's more like I'm half awake, and that part of me recognizes it's a dream, but I'm still just following the sleep part. I can't really just make it whatever I want.
So think about this. So, and this
No.
is, well,
Next topic.
next topic.
Yeah. Next time on Triptide.
So you're in your dream, right? You're having a dream,
Mhm.
and you're unconscious, and you can remember your dream later on, but you had to experience that to remember it, right? Like you have to experience something to remember something. I mean, not in all cases. Obviously, there are cases
Sure.
of subjective.
I disagree
whatever.
already, because think about how many times you remember something, go back to
Well-
it, and it's different.
Well, okay, so that's what I'm saying. So like, I mean, like you can suggest to somebody that they were in this situation that they would never were in, and they'll remember it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm talking about like for dreams, like so you're unconscious and you're going through this dream, like so let's say you're in a first person situation and there are things going on around you, and you are reacting to them as the person in the dream. Now you're not controlling the whole dream and all that,
Okay.
so that doesn't make it lucid, right?
No.
But as you're going through the dream, you are making decisions.
Yes. That's normal dreaming.
Right. That's normal dreaming.
I consider lucid when
When you control
when
all the
you
variables.
I literally in these dreams I go, I am in a dream right now. I usually lucid dream in nightmares too.
Yeah.
So when shit gets so scary, I'm like, this isn't possible. I live in a rural area. This is not possible. And so that logic will click, and then I go, oh, I'm in a dream, and then I'm able to affect the nightmare and,
Okay.
and kind of
See,
turn it around.
I don't want to be in a haunted house with you, because I feel like a ghost will come out and try to possess us, and it'll be like, "Pff, I'm
No.
dreaming. I'll be like, I'm gonna die.
No.
This is the worst person to be with.
This
No,
is a
I'm
dream.
I'm
Go
such
away.
a pussy. I couldn't do Frightland or anything like
Well,
that.
we're doing Frightland.
No, I can't, man.
It's
I'm so
non-negotiable.
But like,
It-
it's all fake though. Like they have.
I
mean, there
know.
are people our age that are just working there.
I know. I just can't.
They're just like
I don't
bums that are. They're just like high school kids. They're like, hey, you wanna come dress up as a ghost?
I don't know. I just don't do
Rawr.
well with that stuff. Oh, I had my first ever case of sleep paralysis recently.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
Okay,
weird.
Billie Eilish.
Okay.
Tell us about it.
I was sleeping facing towards my wall. So I didn't have the sleep paralysis where like a demon approaches you or anything. But I
You
remember
sleep towards your wall?
Mhm.
Okay, well,
Well-
okay. Next, carry
Well,
on.
I mean I sleep on my side, so you know.
Oh, okay. Well, that
Sometimes.
makes more
But
sense.
so when I woke up, my eyes weren't open all the way. I couldn't move my body, but I was seeing like, you know, my wall and like my legs and everything. And I was like, holy crap, I'm experiencing sleep paralysis. Like I've never experienced this in my life before. And so I was like, all right, like I don't want to be doing this anymore. So I was like, I need to get out of this.
Just go
so
back to sleep, right?
well, no, that wasn't my thinking. That might be a normal person's thought process. So I got my eyes to close again, and then it was literally like I moved my spiritual energy. Like I don't know how to describe it, but I like
Astral projection?
No, I was like, all right, I'm just going to lurch upwards as hard as I can, and like to me, it felt like I was just like slamming into a brick wall. But all I did was just kind of like sit up. But the moment I sat up, there was this huge pain behind my ear, like this huge spike in like headache type pain, like right behind my right ear. It was so scary and it hurt a lot. And I was like, holy shit, maybe I should not have forced my mental energy into getting up. Like I feel like I became autistic. Like I think I damaged something back here because I don't think I should have done that. Have you guys ever had sleep paralysis?
No.
No, I have never had sleep paralysis, but I do remember at times when I was younger, I would just kind of like spike up in the middle of the night. And I would be like, I wish I knew what I was dreaming about because it was clearly kind of intense. And then I would go back to bed. And I would just be like, oh, I'm too tired, though. I can't deal with this right
So
now.
I got a story that you might not remember, Dawson.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Would you like me to share
Oh, please
it,
do
or-
share.
Okay.
I already know what story you're gonna tell.
Maybe I don't know. So this one time, when we were younger, Dawson was hanging out at my house, and he had this what he called spike up, but it was sleepwalking basically. You know, he used to sleepwalk a lot. And from my understanding, like it happened like when you were in like new environments, right?
I think, yeah, that definitely increased the frequency.
Right. So you were at my house, and anyway, I don't remember the situation because I was asleep the whole time. But I woke up the next day, and my dad was like, "Did you hear Dawson last night?" I was like, "What?" It's like, "What are you talking about?" And he was like, "Dawson was running up and down the stairs for like 20 minutes." I was like, "What?" So apparently Dawson was like fast, like sprinting up and down the stairs. Like it wasn't just like you were like jogging. It was like up and down the stairs, and that blows my mind that you could
that
do
sounds
that.
crazy. I thought you were gonna tell the zombie story.
I don't remember that one.
What?
Yeah.
The one you guys played. You guys. This is what you told me. You guys played Black Ops Zombies or something.
I mean, like I always.
And then you guys went to sleep, and then he was sleepwalking again, but he was playing zombies in his head. So he had like grabbed a shirt and was like pretending it was a gun,
that was here.
and was playing like he was sleepwalking.
I think that was here.
A Call of
and
Duty
I was sleeping
Zombies.
in the guest room.
I thought that's a story
Yeah,
you told.
no, I remember that. I definitely remember that because your mom got involved with that one.
That wouldn't be the first time. They had to deal with a lot of nonsense.
So, that's hilarious. Though.
We used to ride the train and we'd get sleeper cars. So there's like a little bed,
I love the
top
sleeper
bunk,
cars.
little bed, bottom bunk. So the basically two chairs in the bottom pull out to a bed, and there's like a fold down bed above those chairs. So each side has two beds, and the top has like a little net. So you can pull a net out, so if you roll out of the top bunk of your train bed, you fall into it.
Nice.
So my mom was like, oh, this is probably for people who sleepwalk, and used the net to like strap me into the bed. And the guy who works on the train came by, and he was like, what are you doing? He was like, that is not what was on here. It's a net. You pull it down like this. Meanwhile, I look like I was like Hannibal Lecter or something riding your
For
train.
some reason, she put duct tape on my mouth. It was really weird.
Straitjacket wasn't enough.
That's hilarious.
Weird enough, the straitjacket was made out of leather too.
I've never experienced sleepwalking or anybody sleepwalking
I
in my
didn't
life.
remember it is the weird thing. Like, people would tell me I sleptwalk, and I would be like, "Pff, yeah, right." And they would be like, no, it happened. And I was like, oh.
I mean, isn't sleepwalking like basically the same as like blacking out drunk? Like almost.
I think it's different
know.
because I think in one situation your mind is active, but your subconscious is leading it. I don't know. Why does alcohol...
But isn't that the same?
I've never been drunk.
All right, so okay, no, it's totally.
I'm a
different,
child of the
actually.
Lord.
So you brought up a good point. So blacking out drunk is completely different than sleepwalking because sleepwalking, your subconscious is running the narrative, right? You're doing whatever. But when you're blackout drunk, it's not that you don't know what you're doing at the time that you're drunk. It's that your brain loses the ability to remember things.
Mm-hmm.
So when you wake up, you don't remember it, but at the time, your body knew it was happening. Like, you knew it was happening when it was going on.
And the weird thing I always think about my dreams is I'll have a dream and I'll, like, walk out of my house next to this skyscraper, and I'll walk down to town and get, like, a latte or something. And I'll wake up and I'll be like, none of that resembles my neighborhood at all. Like, this isn't possible. Like, how does your brain, while it's asleep, forget its memories and just kind of put you in a realistic story, but change so many details?
Well, I mean, but like think about how many times you've had such a realistic dream where you woke up and you thought it was real, but it was, when you think about it, it's like completely ridiculous.
The
like,
worst.
I mean, it's just, I don't know. Brains are weird, man.
I have these dreams that are super insignificant, and they really mess with my memory. Because it'll be like, all right, I, at some point, like, moved my wallet, and I put it, like, on my desk upstairs or something. Something like insignificant, and I'll be like, where's my wallet? And I'll be looking on the desk. And it's still in the basement. And I'll be like, so did I ever bring it upstairs? Or was that just some weird dream that has no bearing on anything, but now is a memory because I remember the dream, and it's so insignificant it's the same as a real memory.
Well, the worst example of this is when you dream that you wake up and you do your morning routine.
Oh my god, terrible. One time, dude, I swear everybody's had this dream where they're in 6th grade, kids, whatever. Your mom comes up, wakes you up in the morning to go to school, and you're like, okay, whatever, 5 more minutes. Go back to sleep, dream about getting up, putting on your clothes, going to school.
Yeah.
The whole day goes by. You get home, and then next thing you know, you're waking up, your mom's like, what the hell is going on? Get out of bed. It's time to go to school.
And the worst
experience ever.
It's a worse start to the day now too, because you're
Terrible.
late, kind of,
Yeah.
and you just already
And you already
experienced
had
it.
school.
The thing is, that's the best sleep, though. Like, the best sleep I get is when somebody wakes me up, and then I get to go back to sleep.
So
Like, that is the best sleep.
So
Not an alarm. Someone has to wake me
it
up.
feels good, like when you're sleeping, obviously, because you're tired and you get back to sleep.
Mhm.
But I have this problem where, I mean, everybody does it. You hit the snooze button. I set myself multiple different alarms. So I'll set one for when I should get up or like a little before, and then like when I need to get up, and then like when it's like, you need to move or your ass is going to be late or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But that's so stupid, because why didn't I just set the alarm? Like, why can't I just set the alarm for the time that like I actually need and get that sleep? Because when your alarm's going off and off and off for like 10-minute intervals, like you're not getting any sleep there.
Yeah.
Here's the issue.
The
It
snooze
feels, it
button.
feels good when you're doing it.
Yeah.
But
For me, it's training myself to get back up, because if I do it for the actual time, I'll close my eyes and I'll open them half an hour later, and I'll be like, how? How is
Yeah.
that even possible?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So if I do a 10-minute interval, I'll open them again before that 30 minutes passes, and I'll be like, I really can't do this again.
Right.
I can't close my eyes because I know what's going to happen.
But I've
You have
definitely
more consciousness.
I've definitely had times where I was taking a really serious nap after getting up at like 4:30 in the morning, and then I get back home. It's probably like around noon. I got a class at like 3 o'clock, and I'll go and take a snooze, and I'm doing that thing with my alarm, but I'm in such like a tired state and like half asleep that I don't even like think about my responsibilities and just sleep through class. Like, that's definitely happened a couple of times.
Have I told you guys about my timer strategy? Did I
No.
talk to you guys about this?
No.
Instead of alarms, so like I'm a terrible sleeper. I would much rather stay up and like not sleep. So, but I know I need 8 hours
Right.
to function. So what I've been doing is I'll set like when I'm going to bed, I'll set a timer for myself at the time that I need to wake up. So like if I need to wake up at 8:30 and I'm going to bed at midnight, I will set an alarm for 8.5 hours
Why?
so that I can see my amount of sleep tick down. Because like I'll sit on my phone, I'll watch a ton of YouTube videos, but then if I if I swipe up and I look at the timer and it's like, you're only going to get 6 hours if you go to sleep right now. And I'm like, shit. So it like kind of peer pressures me
Yeah.
almost, because you get to see your
Go to
sleep dwindle away. Like
Go to sleep a little
that
bit.
yeah, exactly. That visualization actually like pressures me to be like, I gotta sleep. But then I'm stressed
Yeah.
that I'm not sleeping, so then I don't sleep.
The hardest part about Zoom University is sometimes my first class of the day, if I'm tired, I'll just go in and I'll just keep my camera off, and I'll be like, well, I made it, and I won't pay attention, and I'll end up nodding off for a bit, and it's like,
That's
whatever.
the worst. 'Cause,
Then
you're paying for this class, and like I do the same thing. I wake up from my early class, turn on my Zoom, and then go back to sleep and set an alarm to wake up before the class ends.
Do you? I
That's
feel
terrible.
a sense of guilt when I have pretty nice professors.
I
this
feel guilty
semester.
when I have my camera off, for sure. If that's what
All my classes are camera off, which
Oh,
is
really?
apparently abnormal from other
Yeah.
students
Yeah.
I've talked
It's
to.
really just, I think they're all camera off, but teachers ask you every class to turn them on. Is the class
Really?
camera on?
Mine, it's like normal to have your cameras off. But what's sad about this is like I have this one professor who tries really hard. Like it's a 9:30. It's not like super early, but he's trying really hard. And everybody's microphones are muted and nobody's cameras are on. And so it's not even like hard questions, because today he was like, he wanted us to find like how much money the semiconductor industry is. It just kind of an off-topic question, but something interesting. And like nobody was doing it. And I felt so bad that he was just kind of sitting there in silence. It was like, is anybody doing this? And so I didn't do it, but I was doing other homework, so I was like, I can't do this right now, but I do want to know the answer. And it was $2.3 trillion, by the way, which is more than oil. So like I learned something through him doing this question, but nobody was responding to it, and it just made me feel bad.
I feel like luckily most of my classes have a few tryhards, so it's not totally dead, but there are times, especially in my class on Gandhi, like just nobody responds, and he's always like, "Guys, can you turn your cameras on, guys?" So, what do you think about this? And it's just he's waiting. Like he's such a, I gotta wait till somebody answers. He can't.
Yeah, a lot of
just
my
power
professors
through.
are the
He
same.
needs somebody to answer, and sometimes we do have really good conversations, and it feels good to participate. But it also makes me think like, man, obviously no one wants to be here right now. Like, it's just so much worse when a professor waits and nobody responds, and then he's still waiting. It's like at that point, I have professors who do that.
It's up to the professor at that point to carry on.
Exactly.
Right.
The best professors do that, and then after a certain amount of time, they're like, all right, well, and they just go into it. You know, they don't expect somebody to come through out of sympathy. Right. That's the worst feeling. Well,
it's even harder because I'm doing a class asynchronously.
That's worse.
It's a professor that waits for everyone to respond, and I'm watching recordings. So the class does happen live. There are students that do go at the class time, but my schedule, I can't. So
you're sitting there watching silence.
I'm watching silence, and I can't participate. And I also don't know when to skip ahead because I don't know when somebody responds to the dang question.
Dang,
That's terrible.
I definitely, there's a few classes that it gets rough. Like, I do wonder, and I think teachers seem to be grading higher on participation this semester than before. And I think it's because they just want people to show up to the Zooms, and they know how hard it is to achieve that.
Let me bring this topic down to the grade school level. So there's this really big problem right now where younger kids are not engaging at all, basically. And it's the same what we were talking about, turn on the camera and go to sleep or whatever. But they're having this problem where these kids that are learning the foundations of learning, basically, they're not engaging at all and they're not learning anything. So, for example, my cousin, I forget how old he is, but he's really young. He's literally like going over the alphabet, things like that, like things that you need to know to function, like to read. And he's basically behind a year. Like,
my nephew's the same.
Yeah, because you think about it, and it's like, going through high school, like you can miss classes in high school. That doesn't really matter. You can miss a whole semester in high school. You'll be fine.
Depends on who you are.
Right. And then, obviously, everything depends on who you are. But like, if you're a little kid, having to learn this stuff, like you're basically a year behind because of this. And so I'm just gonna be, I'm wondering what's gonna happen. In the next couple of years.
Zoom
education is gonna have to change big time for these kids.
Yeah.
I think socially they're so screwed too. Like think about, I'm going to go to school and I'm going to see kids every day, and if I don't like them,
the kids that follow social guidelines are screwed.
But you learn social guidelines by going to school.
Well, like the kids that follow the COVID guidelines, like social distancing and stuff like that. Those kids are screwed.
Yeah.
But the kids that don't care, they go out and ride their bikes.
But I think even like there's such a reduced level of interaction because most schools are closed.
Yeah.
And there are kids who are homeschooled, so to be fair, but I feel like homeschooled kids are usually extra active in like, I don't know, sports or plays or whatever it is that they make friends through. And the fact that all of it's shutting down, I think there's going to be a weird gap of like five years. People born in those years, maybe not 5 years, maybe it'll only affect this year really, but like 1 to 2 years even. People born in those years just lack proper social development.
Well, I think that it's just going to have to show that there has to be higher responsibility, not only in the household, but also in education for people to get things through their head.
For sure, but it's like,
And especially on the
when you're
parent
sitting
side,
at
I mean-
home and there's a kid watching a laptop and you're like, pay attention, and they pay attention and they're still just thinking squares. Like, oh,
Right.
squares on a computer. I should go
Well, so,
watch
like,
a television
Think
show.
about this, like, all right, so to bring up my cousin again. So he's learning the alphabet and he doesn't know it very well, and he's going through this stuff. I get that his dad works and his parents work and all that, but at the end of the day, like, help him with his homework. Go over this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, teach.
Yeah.
I think that kids get more out of learning at the end of the day with their parents than they do going to school. The school is the social side of it, especially when they're younger.
My mom is, my nephew's doing, he's in 5th grade. Excuse me. He's in 5th grade, and my mom is just kind of helping him get through the school day. And, he doesn't pay attention, and, like, she has to, like, literally sit next to him and help him. But they were doing fractions.
Right.
And Common Core is a whole fucking
Well,
mess
let's
in
not even
itself.
get into
Yeah.
that.
But so they were just trying to learn fractions like the dumbest way ever. And my mom is a like old school Catholic school teacher.
Right.
So she was like, this is retarded. I'm going to teach you fractions like normal human beings learn fractions. And she taught him fractions in a fraction, a fraction of the time. Like, they spent a whole class period to like an hour of fractions,
right.
and my mom taught him fractions in like 10 minutes.
Well, that's also, that's a one-on-one situation, so you're gonna get better results.
Oh yeah, my mom literally sits next to him the
Like,
entire school
You
day.
can teach anybody. I mean, like, I could teach you a subject that I've been talking about this whole semester in about an hour or 2 hours, and it's because there's that whole class where you have the participation, you have the kids answering questions, all that stuff. So it's really drawn out. So that's what I'm saying. I think that the COVID and all the guidelines that are going on with this and like all the stuff that's happening, like, yeah, it's going to highlight problems in the education system. But I think hopefully it convinces parents that they have to take a bigger role in their children's learning. Because I mean, obviously a lot of parents do. But I guarantee you 90% of the kids that are struggling throughout school have parents that don't help them at the end of the day.
I was just going to say, we are getting close to our end time. So for all you parents out there, make sure to teach your kids. We're going to go over a few things that we do. Obviously, if you're interested in investing in stocks, you know that my Robinhood link is down below.
Teach your kids to invest in stocks.
Teach your kids at home to invest in stocks. We have a link by Devon Davis. That's DVNVS on Spotify. That is going to be our song of the day. Let's go over to something Sean likes.
Oh, I guess My Octopus Teacher on Netflix. Highly recommend. It's about an hour, but you get a lot from it. What's your recommendation?
Frank, what's your recommendation?
So my recommendation is think about the morality of hunting. Think about if it exists in the real world, and maybe go take a class. Maybe go shoot a gun. Maybe go shoot a shotgun. I mean, I know there's a whole bunch of ideas.
It's
about
liberating.
guns
Can
or
we
whatever,
really
but-
know if hunting's moral until you've shot man?
All
Go
right,
out there
well,
and try it, everybody.
Find out next time.
Let us
on
know in the
Triptide.
comments down below how it
Next
went.
episode, I'll shoot Dawson.
Triptide does not condone gun violence.
No gun violence.
So,
Gun safety.
thank you for joining this episode of Triptide. Comment what your thoughts on the morality of hunting is, and we might review them in the next episode. Again, if your name rhymes with Shmawn Magee, do not comment. We don't want your comments. Nobody wants to hear from you ever.
If you're still here, we will find out, and we will put an end to it.
And hopefully Steven does a good job editing this.
Yeah,
Oh,
Steven's going to have
We're ending there. We can't talk about this.
To continue, you must add a second player. What the fuck? Trevor! You trying to play a game?
What game?
Press start 2.
Press start 2? I mean, I never played that shit, but I heard it was tough. What's the look?
They say I need another player to keep going.
All right, let's get it.
Look, hit a nigga with a bass boost. Hit a nigga, leave his face loose. I don't got a strap, but I might shoot. Galaxy might wanna fight you. Nigga, I don't even like you. Don't give a fuck what you gotta talk about. Big dog, I might bite you. Fuck boy, you need to walk it out. White line, need to chalk it out. Hit you in the mouth that you talking out. Pussy nigga, what you say now? Nigga shady talking 8 Mile. Taliban got the K now. I'ma light it up and I'ma fade out. We ain't really with the rapping shit, spit a 16 and then smack a bitch. I don't even wanna ask for it. Got the shooter with me and he accurate. Really, I don't even ask for much. I like an Arizona with my Java Dutch. Master sword, I might slice you up. I got 1 heart and then 12 tuck. Niggas is faking it, bitches is tripping. I'm just trying to get the chicken. Look how we living. Niggas ain't making the difference. They get it, just how they gon' get it. I'm trying to live it. Stack it up high as a ceiling, my nigga. I'm just trying to get it. I'm just trying to get it and I won't stop. Won't stop even after 1 million. Hey, I gotta get this for my children. Yeah, bitch. Stack it and I'ma keep building. For you, I don't have any feelings. Banana clippers get the pillin'. I don't be trippin' about none of you niggas, cause all of you niggas is fake. I'm feeling great, you is a bitch and I cannot relate. Nigga gon' love it or hate, I'm stacking up on my plate. Don't wanna date, little bitch, you a disgrace. Ho, get the fuck on my face. I cannot love you today. I cannot love you at all. I just rejected her call. I want it all. Want you to make me a star. I wanna buy out the mall. Nigga, you stink. She suck me up like a drink. I don't know, what do you think? I need a mink. I want a roller that's pink. Pull up and I'm calling Link, nigga.
Flexed out, bitch. Iced out wrist. Niggas acting goofy till it's lights out, bitch. Run around your crib with my 9 now, bitch. Top and do you dirty, end your life now, bitch. Hey, yo, DVN. Tell me where these niggas be sleeping in. Fucking they bitch, let me kill again. The 50 be bustin' like many men. Stop a nigga out for his loose change. He talking time up like a shoestring. He tough, but he switching like he Bruce Wayne. Nigga talking heavy, won't let shit bang. Little bitch say that she love me. She don't know that I'm fucking her cousin. She topping me off, she ain't nothing. And I'm busting, that's end of discussion. No time tough for the talk, bitch, you bugging. You niggas just stay to assumptions. With my chopper, will dice you like onions. You flexing or stabbing, you ain't nothing. When we pull up, you niggas turn pussy. You're like tough, say your man's on a hoodie. You get jumping, your man's overlooking. Your girl wet, I'ma dive in her cookie. Bitch call me a dog, I said who, bitch? Well, bitch, I'm a god, I'm a new bitch. Cut the bitch off, now she on who dick. Can't run to a check cause you stupid. Bitch.